So hello dear students, we are again back with our next chapter, that is inverse trigonometric functions. Again, we are going to cover the theory part, especially what is the important part very quickly. And then we'll see what kind of questions have come last in the board exams and what is the expected way to represent it as well, depending on which marks, how many marks it have come from. So in inverse trigonometric function, we are not going to cover that because I think most of you will know that. But if you do not, I'm sure that you know, is that you need to understand what is sine inverse x, like how this graph come into the picture. All right. So generally, maybe I'll give a quick idea. So if I have the graph of sine x, now this is the graph of sine x and sine x. If you look at the sine x is not a one-to-one or it's not a bijective function because it's not one-to-one. So all inverse trigonometric function are not one-to-one. So its inverse cannot exist. So the number one thing that you learn in this chapter in the beginning is that you have to cut it, you have to clip it. You have to clip or cut it, the graph, so that it remains one-to-one in that part. So that's what we do with sine x, or in fact all trigonometric functions. And then graphically inverse function is nothing but it's a mirror image on the line y equal to x. So if I draw this line y equal to x, and if I think of the mirror image, then this thing, then in fact it will be, okay, my drawing is not that good, but it will be something like this. So this will be the sine x. Like actually, this will be always above. Maybe I'll draw another one. So if this is sine inverse x, this is the line y equal to x, then the sine x graph will look like this. This it will be below. All right. So it will be a mirror image on the line y equal to x, because in inverse function, effectively we are interchanging domain and codomain. That's effectively interchanging the x and y coordinates. So that's why the mirror image on this line, that is y equal to x. So we have to cut the graphs. So generally, or clip it so that it becomes one-to-one. It's become bijective only then inverse is defined. So we cut it in different ways. Sine we cut from minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. Tan also we cut from minus pi by 2 to pi by 2, but both minus pi by 2 and plus pi by 2 are not included. It's included in sine. We cut similarly cosecant also from minus pi by 2 to pi by 2, but then again 0 is not part of it, except that point. Whereas for the remaining three, that is for cos, cot, and secant, we cut the graph from 0 to pi. In cos, both are included. In cot, both are not included. So it will be an open one. And in secant, it will be 0 to pi, but except the one value, that is pi by 2. So that's how we clip it. And then we talk about the domain and range. So it's domain and range in graph. You should be aware of that. It's given in NCERT. You can just go through it once. Now, what type of questions have been coming over the year a lot? Maybe last year, I think there was only one question like that, but about two questions like that. But generally, you'll see questions in these forms. That is, they will generally ask you questions based on this format, that what will be sine inverse sine x, or what will be cos inverse cos x. So they will ask you questions of these format. In these format, what happens is inner function is periodic. I'll give an example. For example, if I have sine inverse of sine, let's take it as 7 pi. So I can write as sine inverse sine 6 pi. I can also write as sine inverse sine 3 pi. I can also write as sine inverse of sine 2 pi. I can also write as sine inverse of sine 0. Why I'm writing this? Because the inner function sine, I know sine 7 pi is also 0, sine 6 pi is also 0, this is also 0, all of them are 0. So, but in trigonometric function, the question based on the principal values that matters a lot. Principal values in the sense, whenever I have sine inverse, it should satisfy its domain and range. Satisfy the domain and range. So generally for this, it will lie from minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. So as I've told you, this category will depend same for the tans and the cosecants, except those few boundary cases. And similarly for all of these, it should lie from 0 to pi. So these type of questions comes a lot. Now, what we will do is we'll try to understand these two questions. We'll see the step-by-steps marking for it. Maybe for 1 mark, those are not required, but for the higher ones. And over there, we'll look into this part as well. But then again, you have to ensure that these two things, if you know that, more or less you are done with ITF, you'll get full marks from ITF. Although the number of questions comes are less, it will be 1 or 2 questions that comes in the board exams from this chapter. So this is the first one of the question which have come last year. It's again 1 mark question. The question is that if I have this thing, that is y equal to sine inverse x, and x goes from -1 to 0, then what will be the range? Now this question would be super easy if you know the graph. So this is the graph of sine inverse x. We have drawn it earlier also. Now we are saying x, the x part goes from -1 to 0. That means we are talking about this region. X is basically the left and right parts of this region. In this region, x is from -pi/2 to 0. Sorry, -1 to 0, and its corresponding y value will be -pi/2 to 0. So we can clearly see it have to be -pi/2 to 0, both including, because we are including it over here as well. If in case you are not sure, there's also another way you could have done it. You can directly put the values that you think that, okay, what will be sine inverse -1? What will be sine inverse 0? We all know that will be pi/2 with a minus sign and a 0. So everything in between, including it, because we are including over here as well. Now, there's another question which I come. So it is more like the graphical idea. So if you look carefully, it is basically the cos function. It's a cos function because cos is like this. This is the graph of cos. We know that, okay, the question is the graph of trigonometric function is shown below, which will represent its inverse. So it looks like cos. In cos, we clip it from 0 to pi. We clip it from 0 to pi to make it 1 to 1 or bijective. Then we take the mirror image on the line y equal to x. Anyhow, if you know the graph of cos x or cos inverse, you'll directly see this is the answer. By the way, you should know that. You should know that rather than trying to do all of that in the exam, because if you have not done for the year, it is difficult that you do on the exam. Now, these are the questions I was talking about. These type of questions comes a lot frequently. So in this, you have to pick up the appropriate range, appropriate values for it. So what we are getting, so again, this is 2 mark question. So the question is, I have to find the value of tan inverse of twice of sine of twice of cos inverse root 3/2. So we'll first of all find out the value of cos inverse root 3/2. So we know that if cos theta is root 3/2, then theta, this value will be pi/6. So we're just putting the value over here. So this value will represent with pi/6. So pi/6. I have to multiply this with 2, then a 2 sign this. So as long as you write this step, you get your 1 marks. Now we can further simplify because simple, I can just to cancel it out, it will be tan inverse 2 sine pi/3. Now after that, again we put the value sine pi/3, that means sine 60 degree, we know is root 3/2. So again, when you put the value, you get root 3/2, 2, 2. So even if you reach this stage, even if you're not writing this, you might get from here 1.5 marks. But you should do it completely because it's not a difficult question. Then you can cancel out 2 and 2. So once you cancel out 2 and 2, you can clearly see that you'll get tan inverse of root 3. And we know that for tan 60 degree or tan pi/3, this value is root 3. So these questions are given quite a lot in NCERT. I would like all of you to practice that because these are very important. So this is my suggestion that these type of questions as well as do the understand or remember the domain range and the graph of inverse trigonometric function. If you're done with that, believe me, mostly you will get full mark out of ITF. So this is the most important thing from the ITF. ITF is a small chapter. It's an easy chapter. It's a chapter where you can score a lot of marks. So all of you ensure that you do not miss it out. It's easy. And if you need any special help for the ITF, you can comment below. We'll make a new video or maybe we'll just get back to you over the comments. So once again, thank you all for watching this. We wish you all the best so that in the next 3 months, you do really, really well for your board exams. And we'll stop over here. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you all for joining.